So hello, my name is Paul Czech. I'm a front-end developer at 10-Pound Gorilla, and the title of my presentation today is Scroll, Tap, Speak, Voice Commands and the Potential of the Web Speech API. I'm going to discuss the growing use of voice user interfaces in our everyday lives and how that could affect the field of web development in the near future. And I'll briefly touch on the Web Speech API and then show you a few examples of how I use it to create some voice commands to interact with a web page. So let's start by mentioning the evolution of user interfaces. So before the voice user interface, we had the character user interface where the user types text commands into a command line. And then we came to the graphical user interface where the user interacts with graphical components like buttons and icons. And now we have a voice user interface where we use voice commands to interact with digital platforms. And everyone is well aware of the voice user interfaces. There's things like voice search and virtual assistants. They're the most prevalent use case today. Commonly used with Siri, Alexa, or Google Assistant. They offer personalized experiences like searching movies on Netflix or getting local weather forecasts. Another way that we use voice user interfaces are through smart home integrations. And we can use voice commands to control lights, air conditioning, thermostats, security, and other devices. And this allows for hands-free and eye-free home automation. Additional way is through in automotive voice control. This enhances driver safety by allowing hands-free, eyes-on-the-road operation. We can control audio, calls, navigation, and climate settings. BMW has their intelligent personal assistant that is a voice user interface. And next, another example would be voice commerce. We can shop using voice user interfaces. We can use Amazon Alexa to buy some laundry detergent or a new book, and without having to go to Amazon.com and use the graphical user interface to click and make our purchases. So how does this look for the future for using voice user interfaces? A statistic shows that a global VUI market is anticipated to reach nearly 46 billion by 2027. And this growth suggests a shift away from traditional scrolling, tapping, and typing towards voice command navigation in digital platforms. Utilizing voice commands for web development is a reasonable and strategic move towards embracing this future trend. What are some benefits of using voice commands in web development? Let's see. User-friendly interaction allows a natural, intuitive communication with web apps, which is ideal for when typing is difficult. Enhanced accessibility. Voice integration makes websites and apps more accessible to users with disabilities. Innovation and distinction. Voice capabilities in web apps offer a competitive edge and foster innovation. So not a lot's being done right now in this field. So there's an opportunity as more and more people use voice commands in their everyday lives, is to try to bring this into web development and see how we can innovate using this technology. And time savings and efficiency. Voice commands increase efficiency and save time, and this is useful for multitasking or limited mobility scenarios. Let's look at some challenges we're going to have here. Number one challenge, accuracy and language support. Right now, speech recognition, we have to be able to, speech recognition interfaces need to be able to recognize what the user is saying. If it's inaccurate, then the commands can't do what they are expected to do on a web page. So that would be a big consideration to make sure that the accuracy is achieved. Audio quality and environment. Developers need to address background noise and varying audio quality to maintain recognition accuracy. Privacy concerns are another consideration. And cross-browser support. Currently, Web Speech API has limited browser support. So we're kind of really in the early stages of using Web Speech API for desktop websites. Mobile apps are different. You know, you can use Siri to navigate or search for things, but you don't really see them a lot on a desktop. We can go to Google and we can click on the microphone and do a search that way. But there's more that we can do with the web speech API. So let's take a look basically at what it is. I'm not going to get into code right now, but we can talk about the code if you want to afterwards, and I can show you some examples. But I just want to just point out the two main interfaces involved with using the web speech API, and that is there's a speech recognition interface and a speech synthesis interface. The speech recognition interface is best for voice command applications. It takes the input from the user's microphone and converts it to text, and with that text, then we can create code to create interactions on a web page based on what text is entered into the microphone. And the speech synthesis interface can, especially it's like text to speech. You can read large blocks of text. Could be used for interactive storytelling. And there's another example I'll show you here in a few minutes with an interactive form where the speech synthesis is used to read the label of the form and then await speech input. And then after that input is taken, it'll go to the next field and then eventually submit the form. So let's take a quick look at how we can put the web speech API to use. So I created a web page here, it's a basic web page, and I was thinking some examples of what we could do, and I was thinking about Moncito's page assistant that we have on our 10-pound site, where you have to click and you can change fonts and font sizes and things like that. And I just want to kind of see what the experience would be like if we could speak these commands rather than click. So let's click the microphone here. There's an accordion here that will give you different commands if anyone wants to try this out later to see what it feels like, you know. Dark mode, light mode, background blue, color white, light mode. We can scroll down, scroll down, scroll to top, scroll to bottom. If we want to change fonts, font serif, font monospace. Oh, see, it didn't recognize, so that's a font monospace, font cursive, font reset, text larger, text larger, text smaller, text reset size. If you want to find text, so say we wanted to find, let's see, how to enable uploading. Find how to enable uploading. Search 10-pound gorilla. So there's several different things we can do. That's using the speech recognition interface, where we, through the use of the microphone, it reads the text, and then we can do things based on that input.
And if I ask you a quick question here, you access the data from the API, right? It tells you what the user is describing, right? And then you have to write a command or some code to tell it to increase the font size or change the font style, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's not, I would say, very developed, but I'm thinking maybe, you know, the code base will increase or will improve as this technology becomes more integrated, and we'll have better tools to use to to add voice commands to web pages. Another way of doing it, another application would be for interactive forms where when you click on the microphone,
name,
Paul,
phone number,
555-5555.
message.
This is my message.
Do you want to submit the form? Say yes to submit.
Yes. So that's kind of a cheesy example, but things like that are ways of using the web speech API for voice commands and for speech synthesis. There's a really cool tool out there that they're doing it right now. It's a Chrome plugin. If you guys want to check it out, it's called LipSurf, and they have it's much more involved, and it's a robust library of commands that you can use to surf the web. Like here, I'll turn it on here real quick, just show you a few examples. If we go to our 10-pound site. Oops, sorry about that. Tag. Click 6. Click 9. So it's really cool. It does things like that. It tags all of the links. Turn this on, and it has all these different commands here that you can use. And it seems weird to use voice commands now because we're so used to scrolling and tapping and all that. But I could see where you could get used to it and you're just surfing using your voice. So I just kind of wanted to introduce the topic of that, using it with as a website feature, and maybe have a discussion about it and see what you guys think. If it's even you think it'll catch on for development in the future, or it's not something that we need to be concerned with at this point.
You had, sorry, go ahead, Laura.
I was going to say, does it change the way you have to code things like form labels or anything like that? Are there any additional attributes you have to add?
I don't think so. I don't know enough. It's more of the JavaScript part of it, and I'm sure there's always going to be, like, if it did get adopted, there'd always be the hybrid,
Okay.
It easily gets introduced into it slowly gets introduced into it, But I thought it was just interesting to be able to explore it and interact with it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that form submission process is pretty interesting because it just kind of like continues to reinforce like all of the best practices and accessibility requirements that you have to put into your website that you're developing. To be able to use tools like this, you have to, again, continue to use that and make sure that you're developing your forms and all of those things in a way that search engines can understand what it's doing, and then you can code against it in this kind of like self-help user experience.
I do think that that's the direction that we're going in, and that people, I forget what it was called, Paul, but you said it was like two lines. One was like where you're speaking in, and then the other's where it's reading text and then talking to you back. But it seems like that's showing up a lot more in sites where maybe you just search for like if you use Bing on your phone or something, you're just talking to it, and then instead of even looking at the content, it reads it back to you. So really, if you're not having to look at a video or you're not having to read an article, your phone is going to become like this AI assistant for information that you may not actually go and have to physically see or read things, because it's just going to be returned back to you. So I do think that the speech will be heavily integrated more and more as, even 2024 goes on. I think you'll start seeing it more. I think it's pretty interesting. Did you code this, Paul, or did you say it was Moncito?
No, I coded it. I just took an example, like
Yeah.
Moncito has this thing where you can click around and change different. We have it on our website.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And translate that into a speech.
Yeah, just that functionality. And essentially the pattern is just you can get the input, and if you're just creating if statements. If text equals scroll down, then you use Nebraska. You scroll plus equals 250. Scroll to top. And you just like you would. So it's real basic JavaScript. But it was just cool to use. I've never worked with it, so it was just kind of cool to use it.
And I have seen too that they're doing website builders where all you do is like talk, and then it builds a website for you.
Wow.
Including like tell this position, go left, right, size up, down, and so now they're. And I think that what will happen, this is just my guess, but what will happen is that's sort of like when web content management came out, people can only do so much that don't know it well. So it might be for like hobbyists and people to put together sites quickly, but unless you really know the code that goes on in the back end, you're going to still need to do that to develop it. But I think it'll be something that we will be building possibly for clients to have them be able to speak into it. So like when they're editing content, I make that title larger, upsize that font and do exactly sort of like your demo. I could see that being more like how content is managed by an admin that isn't a developer in the future, where they're not using any sort of like they don't even have to use the mouse. They just talk into the screen.
Yeah, and I think another point with that is voice commands are kind of limiting because you have to say it correctly, and it'd be great if it could evolve into like more of a conversational, so it takes context and it understands, just like ChatGPT does, right? It understands the gist of what you're saying without having to be perfect in what you're describing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
When you're going,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you're going over like the accessibility kind of tool that you were building, I was thinking of that. Like, it'd be really interesting to try to like pull ChatGPT into that, because so many things. There's a lot of things you could do around modifying the presentation for the website, and so if ChatGPT could understand that and make some kind of JavaScript snippet that runs it to the site and executes it, right? It could kind of take all of those things around accessibility and make them available for you to modify just through your voice commands.
Yeah, it's I haven't looked at the speech stuff. It's definitely interesting and brings some ideas up for me. But
when Paul and I were first talking about this, it was interesting because I was thinking like, I can already do this when I'm filling out a form, right? I can click on an input field, and if I'm on my phone, like I have that voice to text command, I can do that. But like being able to have it step you through the form, ask you the input field, you put in the value, and it just takes you straight through it. Seems like a nice user experience to be able to go through that process.
Yeah, and then there's the whole, error handling and making sure that the translation's correct. And like in that example I just did, there were too many 5s in it, and so it's there's a lot to do, but it's cool to think about. And
more complex examples of like a drop down would be interesting. How do you solve for that when you need to give someone a drop down with 200 options? Like they send you an answer, and if it's not in that drop down, you have to send them some response back saying that's not an option, or how you guide them through that process would be interesting to kind of find a good solution for. Or
if they if it was like just the address, maybe there's just a common address that's saved or based on your location, or if you're not traveling, just it fills in everything that way, but yeah, the drop down thing would be a challenge for sure.
The search did. I can just see like when you did it, it took you to Google and then return the results. Where like ChatGPT goes and reads the entire website's content, and then once it knows that content, then it can just find the information from whatever page, and then it returns it to a page, almost like an index. Like, hey, this is what I found on the site about what you just asked me.
Yeah.
I feel like that will be something that will, I mean, could probably be done right now. I was looking at it this spring, but would be very helpful. Like if you, instead of like Chris, you say you have 5 clicks. No, I don't want to click 5 times. That's why I go to Google to then search a site to get the results. I don't have to navigate a site that I can't find the information on. But instead of doing that, it'll just be you communicating with some sort of tool like that, and then it'll return that results for you. And then it'll probably read those results back to you if you want it to read it back to you.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know how end users, it'd be really interesting to look into this more, how like end users typically navigate a website when they're trying to do research for something, because I'm always Googling for something, seeing if I found the result, go to the page and view it. And if I don't, I usually go back out and continue Googling till I get refined for it. And I might still be on the same website bouncing around from page result, but I don't commonly find myself like going to an organization's website, using the search tool and looking to find, or just navigating through their site to find it. I'm finding it through Google and getting where I need to go. I just don't know exactly how end users are and if I'm weird on that process. Probably weird.
I mean, I think everybody does things differently. And I think sometimes you're surprised. And like those click maps, if you guys look at those, sometimes I'm like, are these accurate? Why are they always clicking? Is that a bot? I mean, but that was several years ago when I didn't trust it as much. I haven't really looked at those nowadays. Do you ever look at that, Chris or Laura or anybody that looks at analytics?
I was just looking at that a bit this week or last week with Cassidy when reviewing the engagement on the new website. So that really interesting to see like how you can track people going through the website, what they're clicking on, how they navigate through, and almost seeing where they're potentially getting stuck. Very helpful to be able to understand that engagement experience.
Yeah, and even this little piece that you built, Paul, like if you have different types of users, so you have an older lady that comes to the site that's eyes aren't as good and she wants the font size this big. If this made her life that much easier, so you're able to cater to a wider audience for how you design that, as opposed to, I've never found those like, oh, click to make the font size bigger and all that stuff that useful. But I honestly hadn't looked at Moncito's, which has improved quite a bit.
Well, the other thing is too, you have to start the microphone by actually clicking on it. So it's a challenge would be, can you activate a microphone by, how do you do that? You know, it's like, because the microphone is off by default. So, and you have to get permission through your browser. So there's a lot of hurdles there too.
Yeah, that probably will come in time as people become familiar with some symbol that represents that.
Yeah.
Very cool, Paul. It was cool to see.
Yeah, it's cool to think. It's fun to think about it. You know, where we'll be 5 years. You know, where web development will be 5 years with this.
Well, I think we're going to be using our voice a lot, but we'll be using our knowledge too, and then it'll evolve, and new code and languages will come out. And
be sure to like this video and subscribe to our Gorilla Learning Lab. We have a lot more banana tidbits for you to get ape over. Check out our other videos or visit our website at www.10poundgorilla.com. I'm swinging on out of here.
You're not subscribed? That's bananas!